Hey everybody, what's going on? Welcome back to a brand new edition of Daily to Dynasty, your home of the official music that Joe Rogan now uses on his Spotify exclusive radio show. But that's okay. We had it first. Don't forget about it. Epidemic Sound. Your favorite stop for royalty-free music. Not sponsored, just free plug, Epidemic Sound. We have a very fun show planned for y'all tonight. It is a brand new week around the NFL. Much better games on the docket this week. The games last week were a bunch of stinkers on paper. They weren't particularly fun to watch, but some interesting, surprising outcomes. I thought that we were kind of in a bit of a bizarro world last week with some games that looked like they were going to be trash, ended up being more exciting. Some games that looked like they would be one-sided went the other way. A lot of players outperformed themselves and underperformed in other ways. So we'll unpack all of that as we go through this week's matchups. We want to give a special thank you to our sponsors over at the Underdog newsletter. Make sure to check them out. Every week they compile all the best underdog stories around the globe, from podcasts and videos and articles. And then every Tuesday they release that in one fun newsletter, jokermag.com/newsletter. Definitely something you want to subscribe to. Get on the list, jokermag.com/newsletter. Rich, Marcus, let's jump right into it. And I'm going to be honest, the odds that I get the show out in time before Thursday Night Football are very slim. But let's talk about Thursday Night Football, because I do think that there's probably a few diamonds in the rough here in terms of fantasy value, because both of these defenses are particularly bad. So, Marcus, let's start with you. Who do you think has some fantasy value in this game?
I know people don't like the guy, but I'm going to go with Evan Ingram. I mean, he's had only a few targets over the last two games, but this is Philly's defense. They allow the fourth most points to tight ends. I can definitely see him having a breakout game against this defense. 5 targets over the last two games is nothing, but I think that can come to an end on Thursday with this mediocre to subpar defense in Philly.
And Rich, over to you. Who's some diamonds in the rough here?
I mean, I really like Darius Slayton in this game. The only real defense that is in this game is the Giants' pass defense. It's been very good this year so far. It's in the top 10. The only one I really touch is Darius Slayton on the Giants, and then Boston Scott as a fill-in for Miles Sanders. I think the Giants win this game just because the two people we talk about every single week are Miles Sanders and Zach Ertz, and neither of those guys are going to be on the field. The Giants are a bad football team. The Eagles are a bad football team, which means this game is probably going to be very exciting for some weird reason. And as a Jeff fan, I'm rooting for the Giants. They did it last week. Let's do it again. Get them farther away from pick number 1.
I like it. I agree with you guys. I think the Giants are the better team here. They're 4.5-point underdogs. I wouldn't advise betting this game, but if you're hot on the Giants, they are the underdogs, and I don't know. If you got a strong opinion, go for it. But I don't have a strong opinion in this one. Let's talk about the other team in New York. This is the first one on the docket here for Sunday, at least in the list I'm looking at. And that's the Buffalo Bills against the New York Football Jets. This is going to be an ugly one. That's like the long and the short of it. Anyone who is a Buffalo Bill, go ahead and start them. Your Josh Allens, your Stephon Diggs, your Devin Singletaries, the defense, the tight end, the fan. I like anybody, the tailgate, Bills Mafia, whoever. If you can get him in your lineup, go ahead and do it. Really, the only word of caution that I'll say is when it comes to Bills wide receivers is I think this team is going to go up by so much so early that all the starters could come out by halftime, and it's just going to be the backup show. So maybe pick up the backup running back, the backup wide receivers, whoever, because they're all going to get their points. The Bills are nearly 14-point favorites, 13.5. I think they get every bit of it. And I think this game is going to be a bit of a joke. Thank God for Red Zone. Rich, anything you'd like to add to my beautiful soul-crushing analysis of our football team?
No, it's going to be disgusting. And next week's going to be even worse for the Chiefs. So I'm actually probably going to watch this game just because I know next week I can't do it. It's going to be red zone the entire time because it's going to be a shellacking. Let's hope Denzel Mims comes back, so at least we get someone to watch. One of the young guys coming back. That would be nice to see, even though it's probably Joe Flacco throwing to him. It's going to be bad. It's going to be 38-3 type game, 38-10 if we get lucky, but we won't.
Marcus, any final points of embarrassment for the Jets you'd like to point out?
Not at all. I'll just say, Rich says 38-10. It'll probably be a Jameson Crowder touchdown.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, maybe throw Jamison Crowder into your lineups. No, I wouldn't start any Jet, even if it's Jamison Crowder. Let's head on over to an NFC South matchup. I think this one could be a little bit better of a game than Vegas has set it to be. Right now, the New Orleans Saints are 7.5-point favorites against the Carolina Panthers. I know the Panthers didn't look great last week against the Bears. The offense really had a hard time moving the football. But even with the ineptitude of the offense last week, they stayed in that football game. To me, the Panthers' defense was the more of the liability coming into the season, and they played pretty well against Chicago. I know the Saints are a significantly better offense, but from just kind of looking at how the Panthers are playing lately, I do think that they can match up pretty well and make this game a little bit more competitive than what Vegas has set this to be. Teddy Bridgewater didn't have a great game last week. I think he has the ability to bounce back here. I don't know if I'm going to start him this week personally, but I still love Robbie Anderson at the wide receiver position for the Panthers. Rich, let's start with you. Who are some players that you like in this matchup?
I mean, I think this game is where the Saints start to hit their stride. With Michael Thomas coming back, almost certainly he should come back unless he's still in the doghouse. They're finally going to be at full strength. You're going to have Kamara. He might have a little more room to run because, Michael Thomas is going to be pulling people to the outside. Emmanuel Sanders can finally go back to that number 2 role that he needs to be playing. Jared Cook is healthy. I mean, everyone on the offense for the Saints right now it could be a start. Kamara and Michael Thomas, you absolutely have to start. And then on the flip side with the Panthers, Robbie Anderson, he's the number 2 wide receiver in all of the NFL. So him and Mike Davis are definitely the 2 starts on the Panthers. DJ Moore also is a good start. The Saints aren't necessarily great on defense, but they make the plays when they have to. So I think the Saints win 7.5. I mean, that's going to be close. I wouldn't bet this game at all, but I think the Saints win the game.
And Marcus, over to you. Same question.
I would say Teddy Bridgewater could be a good start. He had a bad game last week against Chicago, but the Saints are up, and they have allowed every quarterback this season to score at least 3 touchdowns on him. He's been having a good connection with Robbie Anderson, so I think that unfortunate streak for the Saints can continue. I can see Teddy Bridgewater having a bounce-back game. And as far as the Saints, I mean, if Michael Thomas comes back, Drew Brees is definitely a start. But if Michael Thomas is out, I would probably sit Drew Brees because without Michael Thomas, it's the Alvin Kamara show. But if Thomas is in, Drew Brees' fantasy value goes back up, and I'll throw him in there.
For sure. And, we record the show kind of early, but definitely, take a look at everything Sunday morning and take a look at who's playing, who's not, what's the injury situation, because it can dramatically change your lineups. This is a game that I was hyped about when it was Thursday Night Football a few weeks ago, and I'm hyped about it again. The Cleveland Browns against the Cincinnati Bengals. Last time this game came around, I was saying you have to start Joe Burrow. I'm going to say it again. You have to start Joe Burrow. He's playing a great brand of football, 300 yards in almost every single game. Last time he played the Browns, he had 300 yards, 316 yards, 3 touchdowns. I think he's fantasy gold here. On the flip side of the ball as well, the Browns won that game. The offense looked good. The team is going to try and bounce back after a pretty crushing loss to the Pittsburgh Steelers last week. The Bengals are pretty soft, defensively. I think this one should be a pretty fun game. I think the Browns are going to come hungry. I think the Browns probably end up winning again, but I do think that the Bengals offense is going to put up a pretty darn good fight. Rich, Marcus, let's start with you this time. What do you think about this game?
I'm with you with the Joe Burrow comments. 300 yards and four out of his last 5 games. And the Cleveland Browns have allowed the most passing yards to quarterbacks this season. So I can definitely see him, putting up those same numbers, maybe a little better. Same thing I said last week. Don't start AJ Green. And also, I would probably sit Joe Mixon. He had 46 yards against the Browns earlier this season, and they're allowing the fourth fewest rushing yards. So he's definitely an iffy start. So I'm in there if you have to due to injury or COVID or bye week. But if you got something better, sit down Joe Mixon.
And Rich, over to you.
I'm going to say start AJ Green this week. So last week he showed that he's not dead yet. So I think he's probably going to have one more of those good weeks, and it's probably going to be this week, and then he'll probably end up going on IR. But like you said, the Browns allow the most, yards. So, I mean, Joe Burrow, he has 3 quality wide receivers. He's got Higgins, he's got Boyd, he's got AJ Green. I think he's going to air it out just based on like what you said. I mean, Joe Mixon, not only is he hurt, but the Browns don't really offer a lot with the rushing lanes. So I think he's going to air it out. I'm starting AJ Green this week. You guys can see it. You're in the league. He is in my lineup. So I like that start. And on the flip side, I've never seen such a discouraged 4-2 team. I mean, the Browns seem really spoiled right now. Everyone seems like they haven't won a game. It's like they're the Jets over there. So it's hard to want to start anyone on that team besides Kareem Hunt. I mean, you can't not start Kareem Hunt. He gets the ball consistently. Odell, I think he's going to have an off week. Jarvis Landry can never, seem to crack more than 6 receptions. So I think I'm going to sit him down too. I want the Bengals to win, but I think it's going to be the same result. I think the Browns win, and I think it's going to be close.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a close game. It should be a real fun one in the 1 o'clock block. Now, looking at a not so fun game in the 1 o'clock block, the abysmal Dallas Cowboys take on the abysmal Washington football team.
In the abysmal NFC East.
In the abysmal NFC East. Now, remind me, didn't y'all said the Cowboys would win last week, right? The two
sure did.
That was like our big how are we feeling about that analysis?
I don't remember.
I didn't know that Andy Dalton passed away in Cincinnati. I thought he was alive and well, but apparently he is dead. So that was my bad.
Not your father's Andy Dalton.
No.
Starting for the Dallas Cowboys. Listen, on the flip side of things, Washington played a pretty good game last week against the Giants, like all things considering. I don't know why you go for 2 in that scenario. Play overtime. They were playing better football at the end. The momentum was on their side. They rolled the dice and it failed. But I think they played a decent game in comparison to Dallas, who did not. Dallas is the favorite here. Listen, I think there's probably some value along both sides of the offensive ball from a fantasy perspective. I think your Gibsons and your Terrys and your Amari Coopers, and I think all those guys have value in this matchup because both defenses are pretty porous. That being said, coin flip who's going to win. I don't know. I think they're both going to try pretty hard to lose. But I think this game could actually be fairly entertaining, assuming Andy Dalton can somewhat play quarterback. He doesn't have to do it all the way, but somewhat. Rich, let's start with you. What's your analysis here?
So I think Mike McCarthy knows that if he continues to lose, there's really no loyalty between him and Jerry Jones. So he probably wants to win a little more than Riverboat Ron, who went for the 2. I think he knows that he's got a couple years under his belt to do the rebuilding and everything else. Amari Cooper didn't turn it on until late in that game. Ezekiel Elliott had one of the worst games I've ever seen him have. But again, the Washington football team is not, the Arizona Cardinals. They're both really bad teams. I don't know why they have the NFC East going against each other in both of these games, but these are the 2 worst games probably of the week. With that being said, I'm going to start CeeDee Lamb. I'm going to start Amari Cooper. I'm going to start Zeke. I'm going to start Antonio Gibson as Gary Terry, just because the defenses aren't anything. This game is probably going to come down to a field goal and very well might be a low-scoring game just because these offenses aren't that great. I mean, they were when it was Dak Prescott, but they aren't now that it's Andy Dalton. So I'm going to say the Cowboys win. I said that last week, and they only lost by like 30 something. So, here's for redemption for the Cowboys.
I'm Marcus. Kick it over to you.
I'll pick the Cowboys to win this game just based on they just have more talent on the offensive side of the ball. That's just the only reason I'm really picking them. But like you said, it's kind of a coin flip. One name I throw out there is Logan Thomas as a start. He's the second most targeted player on the team behind Scary Terry. So the volume is there. The bad defense is there. There's a chance he can put up some numbers. And I would sit Andy Dalton, threw the ball over 50 times last week, and he still wasn't good. With all those weapons, he still was terrible. So he couldn't get it done last week. I just have no faith in him until I see him do it at least once.
Yeah, I agree with you. And Logan Thomas was a player I was going to bring up as well. He had a very impressive touchdown last week against the Giants, like in the corner of the end zone. And I don't know. I just think you reward someone who makes a big play in your fantasy leagues. And maybe he'll do it again, maybe not. But I like that start, especially when the tight end position is so hard to lock down. Especially this year. Anyone who looks somewhat good is someone you should go with. Let's talk about the Atlanta Falcons, the seemingly incredible Atlanta Falcons, who put on a clinic last week. I mean, they did not take their foot off the gas pedal. They were all systems go. They scored a ton of points. They played good defense. They're playing a Detroit Lion team who has some talent. They've played some good games this year. Falcons are 2-point favorites, but I think they win this one by a pretty hefty margin. I mean, I know they looked really ugly at the beginning of the season, but they would play like a really good half of football and then take their foot off the gas. And I think with the coaching change and kind of having this reputation of not being able to close, they're just playing hungry now. I think we saw that last week. I think they're going to carry that into this week at home and have another really, really good game. So I like them -2 here. I think they're a better team than the Lions. Rich, what about you?
I mean, the one team you can never really count out is the Lions, just because they're so in the middle every single year. They either play spoiler or they get destroyed. But with that being said, I mean, I agree with you. I think the Falcons win. I think Julio is back. He was playing without limitations in that game against Minnesota, making really good plays. Matt Ryan, he's very consistent. Calvin Ridley, was doing some things. I don't really have a player on the Falcons right now that I would say don't start, because even Hayden Hurst last week had a touchdown. On the flip side, the same thing goes for the Lions. I mean, you could start Matt Stafford, you could start Galladay, even Swift. I mean, Swift seems like he took that job away from Adrian Peterson. Now they got young blood in there. He had 2 touchdowns last week. The only one I wouldn't start is Marvin Jones. I think he's starting to fall off the face of the earth right here. But Hawkinson, again, is another good start. Again, this offense for both these teams, you can put on your fantasy team and be successful. Wouldn't start either of the defenses, obviously. But I say the Falcons by 7.
Falcons by 7. I think I agree with that. I think they're a better team. They're a touchdown better than the Lions right now. Marcus, what about you?
I agree with Rich. Hawkinson is a good start. He scored in each of the last 2 games. He really hasn't had that monster breakout game yet this season, but I think it can come against the Falcons defense. And the only thing I'll disagree with Rich is starting every Falcon. I would probably sit down Hayden Hurst. Less than 5 targets in 4 straight games, and the Lions give up the second fewest points to tight ends. So I may just sit him down. But like you said, having a good tight end is kind of scarce this year. So if you got to start him, throw him in there. But you got a better option, I would definitely just sit him down.
So let's move on to a team that really underperformed last week. I mean, to the point where I was embarrassed for them watching this game, and that's hard being a Jet fan, to be embarrassed for another team with how bad the Jets are. But I was very embarrassed for the Green Bay Packers last week. I thought they were poised to have a great game against the Bucs. I thought we were going to have a really epic QB showdown, and Aaron Rodgers just never looked comfortable. He threw the interceptions early, just never got into a rhythm, and the defense wasn't able to slow down Tom Brady at all. This is a very different matchup against the Houston Texans. But the Texans are a team that is slowly starting to find their rhythm, right? They're getting some victories, or a victory. They're 1-5, but they're playing a little bit better now. And I don't know. After that performance from Green Bay, I think the average fan would start to question. But I believe that the Packers are going to come out looking for blood. I think they're going to be hungry. I think they're going to feast on some barbecue in Houston. I loved -3.5. I'll take that pretty easily. And I think, almost any Packer receiver, the tight end whose name is eluding me, but you know who I'm talking about. You can go ahead and start almost anyone Green Bay, because I think that they're going to be out here looking for a slaughter against the Texans. Rich is nodding pretty aggressively, so I think I said something right at the end there.
Well, I mean, he's in my starting lineup this week. Robert Tonyan from the Packers is in my starting lineup. He got a little dinged up against the Bucs, but I think he's going to be a full go. And like you said, I think the Packers are going to be out for vengeance in this game. And the poor Texans are going to be the victim here. So Aaron Rodgers is pissed, and when he's pissed, he usually plays well. He seems pissed all the time, though. He just seems like that type of guy.
It's the mustache.
Yeah, that's what it is. The Hingle McGringleberry mustache there. But yeah, I mean, I really like Devonta in this game. Devonta Adams. I like Tonyan. And then Aaron Jones on the Packers side of things. And then the Texans, it seems like Brandon Cooks came back alive. He seems like Watson's number one guy. Watson had a really good game last week. I think, based on the Packers scoring so many points, Watson's going to have to throw for his life. So Randall Cobb comes into, question in some of these fantasy leagues. And then Darren Fells. I know we're talking about tight ends all the time, and Darren Fells is very productive this year. He seems like the security blanket for Deshaun Watson. He's someone you can throw into your lineups because he's consistent with points. David Johnson, I think he's probably going to get shut down this game. I think he would be on my bench. I say that every week, but I'm forced to play him every week. So I'm just hoping for 10 points from him every single week that he plays. It's really a toss-up at the end of the day. But I think this is a 28-17 type game, which I guess isn't a total blowout, but I think, at least 7 of those points are going to come in garbage time for Watson.
Yeah, I really like the point you make about Brandon Cooks. He really seems to have taken over that wide receiver one role that Will Fuller was doing the last couple of weeks. I think we're starting to see his fantasy value go a little bit down, and Brandon Cooks is on the up. Marcus, I forget, did I give you the chance to talk about this game yet? Or no?
I don't have much to add to it.
My brain's fried, man. I'm sorry.
It's all good. I don't have much to add. Pretty much what Rich said, and you said. I think Aaron Rodgers is going to come out and give an MVP-like performance. Had a bad game, really bad game last week, and Ndamukong Suh was all over him, as well as the rest of the defense. And I think I see him just slinging the ball, 3+ touchdowns, and being the top QB in fantasy, or at least one of the top QBs fantasy this week.
Absolutely. I'm 100% aligned. Let's talk about a surprisingly good quarterback this year in this next matchup. Ryan Tannehill and the Tennessee Titans. I know the Titans broke all the COVID rules, and I know they've single-handedly ruined the NFL this season with all these weird Monday 5 p.m. games and Tuesday Night Football. But let's put all that aside for just 2 seconds, and let's appreciate the brand of football that the Titans are playing right now. They're having an incredible season. They're undefeated. Derrick Henry had a historic game last week. Mike Vrabel knows the NFL rule book better than anybody, and I am really excited for this game against the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Steelers are also playing good football. I think this has some real potential to be a very, very competitive game. And I think there's a lot of value in your fantasy lineups here. So, Marcus, let's start with you. Who are some players to watch?
I'm going to start with some sits. I would probably sit Ben Roethlisberger. He had less than 11 points against the Browns. Didn't have a good one. Less than 240 yards through the last 4 games. And the Titans, they're not allowing that many points to fantasy QBs. less than 20 points in three out of their last 5 games. And I don't really see Big Ben exploding this week. And also, I'll go with Eric Ebron as a sit. Bottom, he's like what, tight end number 29, 30, something like that right now. I mean, the volume just isn't there for him. Seems like Pittsburgh forgot they had a tight end. He's scoring less. He's not even scoring double digits at this point. I would definitely sit both of them. And then you got like the obvious ones, King Derrick Henry, man amongst boys. He's just going to run somebody over. If you got him, leave him in. He's a fill-in every week unless there's a bye week. And I would throw Tannehill in there. I mean, he's on fire. He's doing his thing, what he got. They run through Derrick Henry. He tosses it to his receivers. He's playing really well. If you got him, start him. So those are my 2 starts and 2 sits.
And Rich, what about you?
So I'm going to add Juju to the mix. I think I'm going to sit him this week. I mean, he's just so streaky. 2 weeks ago, he could be the greatest thing since sliced bread, and then he doesn't get a reception. The only one that's consistent right now as far as, Pittsburgh with receivers is really Claypool. He would be my star for the Steelers. And on the flip side, a waiver guy that you can probably still get in most of your league is Ferksker, the tight end for the Titans. With Jonnu Smith going down, he took control of the game last week. He had double digits. He got a touchdown. Tight ends are scarce. We keep saying it. He's some guy that you can just pick up right now. Whenever you're watching the show, he might still be available, and you can start him, on Sunday. And then A.J. Brown. A.J. Brown, since, he came back, he is the most consistent receiver on the Titans. He's Tannehill's favorite friend. And like Craig said before, I mean, the way that Vrabel is playing, I feel like Belichick kind of handed off the baton. And this might be the new Patriots, this Titans team. The way they play is vintage New England. So they're a very exciting team to watch, without a doubt. I think they win.
You think they win? So they're 1.5 point favorites. I mean, if you like the Titans in this one, they're going to win by more than a point, I would imagine. So, would you take them -1.5? Are you betting this game?
I mean, I would. I think just based on how the Steelers are so streaky with everything. Like Marcus said, Ben Roethlisberger had under 11 points in fantasy last week. The Titans are a really good team, from top to bottom, defense, offense, special teams. I mean, they're a complete football team. I don't think the Steelers have that right now. So I would bet the Titans 1.5. Yeah.
So there we go. Rich's guaranteed bet of the week, the Tennessee Titans.
Lock it in. Lock it in.
You can bet $1,000. It's a no-brainer.
Don't do that.
Let's talk about another really fun matchup here. I think this is one of the better matchups of the week. The Seattle Seahawks -3.5 on the road against the Arizona Cardinals. Cardinals put the beat down on the Dallas Cowboys. I don't know how hard of a game that was for them, but man, did they look real pretty doing it. Seattle Seahawks coming off a bye. They're fresh. They were a little injured heading into that bye, right? I think they needed the week off. And the Seahawks have, for me, the best offense in football right now. They're just, Russell Wilson is having an incredible season. DK Metcalf is a monster receiver. Tyler Lockett, they're running the football well. The defense is a liability, though. And when you look at this matchup-wise, the Cardinals have a very exciting offense. Not the best defense in the world. They have a talented defense, but they're not great. I think this is poised to be a very fun offensive type of game. And the Seahawks, the last couple of weeks, it comes down to the last play. So really, I think it's going to come down to who has the football last. From a fantasy perspective, I think that means you have a lot of options. So, Marcus, let's start with you because I know you're repping the Arizona Cardinals hard in fantasy this season.
Yeah, I'm going to start. Of course, I'm obviously start DeAndre Hopkins, only because I know he's an obvious start, but I think he should have a bounce-back game this week. Seattle's defense just is not very good. They have the league's worst pass defense. And
by a lot.
Yeah, Kyler Murray and DeAndre should feast on this defense. They've allowed 7 receivers to go over 100 yards this year. And DeAndre should be added to that list after this week. I think he's going to have a monster game. I think the entire offense can have a monster game. I got Kyler Murray and DeAndre Hopkins in one of my leagues, and I have Christian Kirk in another league. So I'm going to go with a lot of the weapons on Arizona on their offense. On the flip side, like you said, Russell Wilson, MVP candidate right now. I think he's the leader in the MVP race. DK Metcalf looking like he's going to supplant Tyler Lockett as the number one receiver. I mean, he's showing, why people know his name. He's showing the skill set. So Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf, Russell Wilson, definite starts. Hopkins, Kirk, and Kyler Murray, 3 other good starts on the other side of the ball.
Yeah, I think this is going to be an incredibly fun game. The amount of players you just named to watch for fantasy is what leads me to believe this is going to be a real fun one. Rich, anything to add on this matchup?
Despite everything you guys just said, the Seahawks offense is so good, they're going to cover the spread. You can lock that in. I think the Seahawks win by at least 7 as well. I think it's going to be, back and forth, and then Russell Wilson's just going to, go
do what he does.
Yeah, he's going to do what he does. And he's probably going to hit Metcalf for an 80-yarder and dance off the field. They win by 7. I'm betting this game. I could tell you that my money is on the Seahawks this week. Just based on what the Cardinals did last week, I think, they think that they have it all, but they faced the Cowboys. And the Seahawks pass defense is just as bad as the Cowboys. Their run defense isn't. So I don't expect Drake to run crazy in this game or Edmonds to run crazy in this game. I do expect Chris Carson to run crazy in this game. So if you're going to go for a running back, he's definitely the one to choose. But like you guys said, you can start anyone pretty much on offense. The only sit I would have was Kenyon Drake this week.
And one more question, Rich. The over-under is set at 55.5.
Over.
Over? You locking it in?
I mean, I'm going. Neither of these, the defenses aren't great. Budda Baker on the Cardinals. I mean, he's one of the defensive players of the year. He's going to make the Pro Bowl, but he can't play all the positions. And
there is no Pro Bowl.
They're still being named, Marcus.
Oh,
he's going to make the roster.
Honestly, that's probably better.
Yeah, no, yeah. I think they still get paid. They just don't have to play the game. So
I'm okay with that. That's fine.
That's fine. But yeah.
Marcus, what about you? Over under 55.5.
Over.
Wow, just like a no-brainer. Just like
yeah. Why not?
I agree with you guys 100%. I think this is a pretty clearly it's going to be a high-scoring game. Let's head to a game that is less fun on paper. The Jacksonville Jaguars at the Los Angeles Chargers. I feel like the Chargers was such a hot team to talk about a couple weeks ago, and now I'm just kind of realizing that they're 1-4, and Justin Herbert's a rookie, and they're a little injured and they're not so good. I feel like a couple weeks ago we were like, oh my god, the Chargers with the kid, they're incredible, and now I'm I don't know how I feel about the Chargers, but they're more than a touchdown favorite against the Jaguars, and the Jaguars have looked pretty ugly this season as well. I think the Chargers are a better team. I think you're pretty safe playing any of the Chargers that you own on your fantasy team. But I think you could probably find better value in some other matchups here. Rich, what's your analysis of this one?
I love Justin Herbert. I mean, I think he's becoming one of my favorite players. He wasn't supposed to start. He comes in based on a freak accident, and he's pushing Joe Burrow right now for Rookie of the Year. And I think he's leading right now. I mean, he should be, just based on the way he's playing, the way that they played against the Saints. They should have beat the Saints, and if you can beat the Saints, you can beat the Jags. I know. Yeah, Justin Herbert's definitely a must start this week. I have him starting in my one league. Even if I had Lamar Jackson going, it's tricky to pick between those guys, because Lamar Jackson's having an off couple of weeks. He can't get the ball, in the air. He runs to make up the points, but Herbert is just he's slinging the ball. So as far as the Chargers go, I really like Herbert. I want to start Hunter Henry, but he doesn't get his points till the fourth quarter every single game. Keenan Allen has an injury, so we don't know if he's going to play. Mike Williams is a must start if Keenan Allen does not play because we saw what he did against the Saints. On the flip side of things, Robinson, Chark, end of list. So 8 points, I think they can cover that. I'm not going to bet it, but I think they can cover it.
And Marcus, what about you? Do you think they can cover that spread?
Yep.
Any additional players on your mind here?
No, same players. Shark, Henry, both guys, double-digit points, 4 out of the last 5 games. So I can definitely see it continuing this week coming up.
Keelan Cole seemed to have gotten back into the swing of things last week. I think he put up over 20 points last week. Maybe it was right around 20. But was targeted 9 times. 143 yards.
It's so week to week with the Jags receivers, though. It's like the Patriots running backs.
Yeah.
Somebody's the guy 1 week, then you never see him again. So, and then, week 11, they pop up out of nowhere and give you 3 touchdowns. So you really, other than Shark, it's hard to really rely on any of the receivers.
Rich, were you going to say something?
No, I agree. I mean,
streaky.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about the Kansas City Chiefs against the Denver Broncos. The Chiefs are 9.5-point favorites. I think they cover every bit of that. I think, the Broncos are well without of their league here, for lack of a better phrase. But some quick analysis over from you, Rich. What do you think of this one?
So for me, Drew Lock is the Broncos version of the Eagles' Nick Foles. Nothing works unless he's there. And when he's there, good things happen. You saw last week, they beat the Patriots, which no one thought was going to happen. I'm not saying they're going to beat the Chiefs, but I say they keep it close. Within the division, it seems like the Chiefs always seem to struggle. You look against the Chargers, you look against the Broncos. When it is in division, that's when they have the weirdest type games. McCole Hardman fell off the face of the earth. This week he was not targeted. I don't believe. He was strictly the backup in this game, which was confusing, and they just ran the ball the entire game. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, he had a whale of a game. You got Le'Veon Bell coming into that team. I don't know what he's going to do with Clyde Edwards-Helaire, but it'd probably take at least 20% of the snaps. Travis Kelce is a must start. Mahomes is a must start. And then on the flip side, Tim Patrick is trying to jump Judy. He's consistent. I mean, he catches everything thrown his way. Drew Lock, he's going to have to throw a ton of passes this week, but he's not a start. Even with the game last week, he couldn't throw a touchdown. So, I think it's going to be closer than what people think. But I think the Chiefs are going to win at the end of the day.
Jump Judy would have been a good early 2000s Disney Channel movie.
Yeah,
about like a long jumper.
We should make it happen. We'll reach out to Judy, see if he wants to go into the Disney
into the old Disney Channel space. I think there's some real potential there for that film. Marcus, what about you in this one?
Speaking of Judy, I'll sit him under 65 yards in every game this season. Their offense just isn't consistent. It's just not looking good. And to piggyback off that, I will sit down Drew Lock as well. 5 points last week, I think he gave. That's no brainer. The entire season, he has 1 touchdown and 2 picks for the entire season. It might be a shootout with Kansas City, but I still sit him and Judy down. I don't have faith in them at the moment until I see some real connection and see Judy at least give me a 100-yard game and show me some sort of potential.
I think the Chiefs' defense is too good to get into any kind of a shootout type situation. So I'm with you. Sit them down if they're a Bronco. Their time is going to be a different week. Let's talk about the San Francisco 49ers, who put the beat down on the Rams last week. They are 1.5-point underdogs against the Patriots, who lost to the Broncos last week. I think that this is interesting that Vegas has this set this way. The Patriots did not look good last week. I think they get a lot of credit for having Cam Newton at quarterback and Belichick as the coach a lot when you look at these point spreads. But the offense did not look good last week. I don't know if it's a little residual Rona for Super Cam or whatever it might be. The 49ers seemingly, have righted the ship. Garoppolo's ankle looked healthier, but you lose Mostert again. And does this offense have the ability to be as explosive as we saw last week? They still have some weapons, right? You still have Kittle. Ayuk has looked really good. Debo, right? Like there's some talented guys on San Francisco. I think that this one, I honestly think San Francisco is going to win this game. I know the Pats don't typically lose 2 in a row, but just kind of judging off of what I've seen lately out of both these teams, I think San Francisco is trending in the right direction. The Patriots are trending down.
I agree with you. I don't really understand the spread. I think it's just based on the name. You look at the Patriots, you think that they're supposed to be favored just because it's the Patriots. But I look at the Patriots and it's just so underwhelming. It's not the Patriots. It's no longer the New England Patriots. It's just a team that is in the middle of making itself remotely what it was in the past. So I don't really like anyone on the Patriots this week. I'm looking across the board. You can't start any of their running backs because you don't know who it's going to be. If I was going to start anyone, I guess it would be Damian Harris. Can't really start any of their wide receivers. You look at Julian Edelman. If he's on your fantasy team, that's a liability this year. If you try to bet him, over under 3.5 receptions, you're lucky if he gets, 3 receptions. So I wouldn't bet anyone on the Patriots besides possibly their defense, just because they've been playing consistent even though they're down about 6 players. On the 49ers side of the ball, I love Debo, but he's not performing what he used to be because of the injuries. He's still coming back. Kittle obviously is a must start. And then if you want to have a waiver wire guy, if McKinnon's still available, he's the guy. But again, there's not a lot of people in this game that I would start. Besides Kittle, who is a slam dunk every single week.
And Marcus, what about you?
Same with Rich. Outside of Kittle, is no real guaranteed person that's going to give you a lot of points. McKinnon, he's a good pickup, but I think they're going to go running back by committee, so he's probably going to share the ball a lot with other people. Same with the Patriots. Like we said earlier, you can never really trust any of their running backs. Harris played 20% of the snaps last week, and he had 1 target in the last 2 games. So he might explode this week because it is the Patriots, but you just really don't know. So outside of Kittle, there's really no slam dunk start in this game.
Yeah, I agree with that analysis. I think that this is a tough game fantasy wise, but I think betting wise, I might put a couple of dollars on the Niners here plus 1.5. I think they're gonna win this game. And if not, I have a point buffer. So what could go bad? Let's head on over to Sunday Night Football. The Las Vegas Raiders are coming off the bye week against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Bucs are 4-point favorites. The Raiders have been a team I can't figure out for the life of me. I don't know when they're good, when they're bad. They're playing tough football. They're beating good teams, and then they're losing to bad teams. And I don't know. I can't quite figure them out. But they're playing a good brand of football. They're coming off the bye. I think that, and the Bucs just played the best game of the year. They just demolished the Green Bay Packers, who most people thought would tear them apart. And Dominican Sue had a game. He was bullying Aaron Rodgers all game long. We already talked about it. This is a coin flip to me again, guys. I don't know who has the upper hand, because every time I think one of these teams is about to get hot, they tend to disappoint. So I'm going to defer to you, because you guys seem to have a better feel for the Raiders than I do. So, Rich, let's start with you. What do you like about this game?
If there's one game that's going to get canceled this week, it's going to be this game. When your whole entire offensive line has to go home for COVID-related reasons, I'm a little nervous for this game. But with that being said, who knows? I think that they'll have to play on. The Raiders already had a bye week, so that would be very interesting to move around. But, even without COVID, I think the Bucks, they feel a little more comfortable right now. Evans had a really bad game last week. That's the only person that kind of has to get it back together. But Godwin is back, so he didn't get that 1 yard touchdown he gets when Godwin's not in. Gronkowski played well last week, which with OJ Howard going down, that might be the thing he needed to happen in order to be the Patriot Rob Gronkowski. And on the Raiders side of the ball, it's just a mismatch of players, really. I mean, John Gruden loves to add players that were good back in the day and just hope for greatness. And, so far it's been working. I mean, they're 3-2. They've been beating good teams. They beat the Chiefs. But I don't think they're going to beat the Bucks. As far as starts, obviously Evans, Godwin, if they're healthy and playing. Rojo, he took the starting job. Fournette, it pretty much can get dropped off your team. You could just hope that he gets traded to another team, but I don't think it's going to happen. And I'd also start Gronk. I mean, he was consistent last week. I think he can do it again. And on the Raiders side of the ball, the only two that I would start would be Waller and Jacobs. Outside of that, I don't really want to touch anyone on that team. So I think the Bucks win, and I think they cover the spread.
And Marcus, what about you?
Most of the same stuff. Ronald Jones, I mean, that's his job now. Fournette had to take a back seat. Raiders allow second most points to running backs this year, so I definitely see him having a good game. Only thing I'll go left with Rich's opinion is Gronk. I mean, he had one good game. I saw a stat where outside of Travis Kelce this year, the Raiders have not allowed a tight end to have more than 16 yards in a game outside of Kelce.
Gronk. He's the man.
Yeah,
this
isn't 2010, so this is 2020 Gronk. So I'm just not that confident in Gronk. I mean, he had one good game, and I don't know. If he does it this week, I have more confidence in him. But overall, I'm just a little shaky on him. But yeah, I think the Bucks can win this game. I think they're just playing a lot better than the Raiders. I think the Raiders' record reflects their quarterback's play. Sometimes Carr looks like he's going to keep the job. Sometimes looks like he's not going to be there next year, and their record reflects that. So I'll take Tampa Bay in this game.
So I think that's going to be 3 across the board. I like Tampa here, assuming that the game goes on as scheduled. Let's talk about Monday night. Chicago Bears coming off a win against the Panthers where they looked very, very strong defensively. Offensively, they made some plays, but really that defense won them the game. And they're facing a Rams team that just got embarrassed against the 49ers. Rams are 6-point favorites somehow. I think they would like to bounce back. I think in their heart of hearts, they think that they have the ability to do that. But my gut is telling me that the Bears defense is going to do what the Niners defense did to the Rams last week. And I think they're going to have a good game. And I think the Bears can actually win this one. I really do. I think that the Bears defense has stepped up in a major way. I get that, different teams, but they're playing a really good brand of football. And with Nick Foles in at the helm, they're doing the right things on offense. They're doing enough to win. So I actually like the Bears in this one +6. Marcus, let's start with you. Who do you like here?
Yeah, I like Chicago in this game. Chicago allowed a second fewest fantasy points to quarterback, so I will sit Jared Goff. I don't think he's going to, explode or anything, have a great game. Also, I will sit Henderson for the Rams. I mean, he's the lead back, but he's a lead back, but he's not really giving you top-notch production as the lead back. And you mentioned that Chicago defense. I think he's going to have a tough time. So I think Chicago can definitely control the clock and win this game.
And Rich, what about you?
I like the Rams in this game. Just, obviously I've been going against you, Marcus, for a couple of these, but we'll have to keep track of this after this week. But I just think the Rams are the better team. I think that they have more talent across the board. And the only reason Henderson isn't giving the points that, he should is because for some reason they keep switching the running back every single drive. So it goes Henderson, Brown, Akers, Henderson, Brown, Akers, Henderson, Brown, Akers. And the only time that anything happened during the game against the 49ers is when Henderson was in the game. I think they see that this week, and then they switch it up a little bit. I think Henderson will get the bulk of the carries. I love Robert Woods in this game, even though Chicago does. Prove me wrong 1 week. I mean, when he doesn't get in the end zone, then I'll be like, sit him down. But even though Chicago doesn't give up a ton to quarterbacks, I think Robert Woods is going to be the one that's consistent on that offense. Cooper Kupp's got to step it up. He's he had that one long reception against the Giants, and then before and after that, he seems to be the forgotten man. With the spread being 6, I don't think it's going to be that much. I don't think the Rams are going to win by 6 by any means, but I think they squeak out a field goal victory in this.
Yeah, I just really like the Bears here. I get what you're saying, Rich, but I don't know. I'm Team Marcus. Let's go Bears.
Yes.
What's going to happen with Allen Robinson this week, Craig?
What's that?
What's Allen Robinson going to do?
Who cares? It's all about the defense.
That guy.
No, who cares? It's all about the defense. I don't know. It's just a gut feeling, Rich. I don't know.
All right.
I'm half asleep anyway. Talk me through your FanDuel lineup this week. I didn't get the chance to make one, and I also didn't get the chance to make a graphic out of it. So we're just going to full screen on you, and you get to talk.
Okay, so my FanDuel lineup here, I have Matt Stafford going against the Atlanta Falcons. Falcons give up a ton of points every single game besides last week. They're the worst team in the NFL against the pass. And Matt Stafford knows how to sling the ball. 7,300. That seems like a bargain. I'm using most of my money with Alvin Kamara against the Panthers. The Panthers are actually the worst team in the NFL against the run, and Kamara probably is the best running back in the NFL. So that combination is a no-brainer. You have to spend all your money there because he's going to put up a ton of points. Right here, I got a Bills stack with Singletary and Diggs. This one is self-explanatory. The Jets are the worst team in the NFL. They will not win a game. They can't do anything right. They suck at life. Diggs and Singletary are going to put up double digits in their sleep. Let's go down to Claypool. Like I said, he's the most consistent guy right now on the Steelers offense. Titans are a tough team, but they do give up the 23rd most yards to wide receivers. So Claypool is going to be the one who gets those targets. Robbie Anderson, wide receiver number 2 in all of the NFL. He's still cheap at 64, just like Claypool is. The Saints are going to go up, probably early on. They're going to have to throw the ball, and Robbie Anderson's going to be the one who catches it. Tight end, I got Hunter Henry, double digits the past couple of weeks. Jacksonville is not a very good team. 25th against the pass for tight ends. 5,800 is a bargain. I'm going to start him. In my flex, I got Swift. The Falcons, again, are 24th against the run, too. So if you're looking at the team overall, you can see that their defense is the problem. Swift had 2 touchdowns last week. So, it seems like a no-brainer to get him at 61, which is very cheap. And then we're going to end it with the Buffalo Bills defense. We can go back to the Singletary and Diggs comment. The Jets cannot do anything on either side of the ball. Joe Flacco is going to have nightmares after this game. I can see the Bills scoring a defensive touchdown. It's going to be very bad for the Jets. So that's my FanDuel lineup.
And I think if you play that, you're going to win yourself lots and lots of money. So maybe Rich will tweet out his pictures after this at Daily to Dynasty, at Coda522, and I'll retweet it at Seagulls94, and so will Marcus at EMTaylor29. And guys, that is it for our lovely program tonight. Thank you so much for listening to this show this week and every week. If you're watching it on YouTube, go ahead and like, subscribe, leave a comment in the player. Who you like this week? Who are your best bets? Who is your must starts or your must sits? If you're listening to this thing via podcast, make sure you subscribe wherever it is that you are listening to this and leave us a nice review. And you can always head on over to anchor.fm/daily2dynasty to interact with us a little bit more, or follow us on social media at all those lovely addresses that I said before. Make sure you check out our friends at the Underdog Newsletter, jokermag.com/newsletter. And that'll do it. However you're playing, wherever you're playing, best of luck in your FanDuel, in your fantasy, in your bets, in your wagering. It's going to be a fun week at the NFL. And for Rich and Marcus, thank you so much for watching/listening, and we'll talk to you next time.